Greetings, fellow readers! Today I'm reviewing The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson, the start of his trilogy. It was originally published in Swedish and then translated into English and a whole bunch of other languages as it became super popular. And it was also adapted into 2 movies, one in Swedish, one in English. And probably you've heard a lot of hype about it for the last few years. But if you haven't read it yet, I am here to tell you what it's like and why you should read it, or maybe you shouldn't, might not be your thing. So, quick plot summary, and no spoilers through the plot summary or even further on. I hate spoilers, really love discovering the story behind a book for myself, so I'm not going to do that to you guys. But basically, this book has 2 major characters. Mikael Blomkvist, a journalist, kind of middle-aged, single man. He does a lot of investigative journalism, looking into companies and economics and things like that. And the other main character is Lisbeth Salander. She is, I think, a 19 or 20-year-old girl, and, well, I'll let you figure out what she does on your own. It's kind of a cool story. But she starts out as a private eye, kind of stalking people and looking into their background and, cheating husbands and that kind of thing. But it gets substantially more interesting as it goes along. So Mikael Blomkvist is a journalist, and he was researching this company that was supposedly corrupt. There was a bunch of stuff going on, and thought he had great sources to back up what he was saying, published an article about it, and then he got sued for libel, and it went through. Apparently all of his sources were wrong, and then so his journalistic credibility is completely wrecked, and he has to serve some jail time, and he has to take a break from the magazine where he works. And while that's happening, he's hired by Harold Wonger, the head of a corporation, to look into what happened to Wonger's niece 40 years ago. She disappeared at a family gathering. Harold Wonger really thinks that she was murdered, but he keeps getting these flowers, pressed flowers, every year on his birthday, which his niece, Harriet, used to give him when she was alive, and he thinks it's the murderer mocking him, and it's this big family scandal. So he hires Mikael Blomkvist to look into it, find out what happened. And so Blomkvist moves out to a little cottage on their island and starts investigating that. And as he gets deeper into it, he ends up being helped by Lisbeth Salander, which is where the 2 of them kind of meet paths and basically end up into a much more complicated situation than they originally anticipated. So I won't go any further than that, not to give you guys spoilers. If you're one of those people who has to know everything that happens in a plot before you read the book, you should go read the Wikipedia article or something, but I'm not going to do that. So a couple of really good things about this book. The character development is fantastic. Lisbeth, in particular, is a character with a lot of depth, and she continues to get more interesting. Stieg Larsson kind of feeds you tidbits about her character as you go along, and really, as she unfolds, as the mystery of the story unfolds, it just gets super interesting, tying together a lot of plot lines and a lot of details. Blomkvist is, I'm ambivalent about him. He has good points. He's a really likable guy in a lot of ways. He seems to have a lot of character, a lot of ethics, but he's also, well, frankly, he sleeps around. He sleeps with practically every woman, not only in this book, but also the rest of the series. That's just a personal thing that I'm a little uncomfortable with. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. My personal theory is that Stieg Larsson kind of wrote Mikael based on himself, like he saw him as an alter ego, and that's why he's all like suave and everyone wants to sleep with me kind of thing. But he's not suave in the sense of like, he doesn't seem like a jerk. He just, all the women fall for him. It's very odd. It doesn't make sense in my head. Maybe because I've never actually met a man like Mikael in real life, so I don't understand him. But he is a reasonably likable character. He's fun to read about, and if you are into mystery, puzzles, detective novels, adventure, thriller, that kind of thing, this book is fantastic for you. Like the not only Harriet Vonger's murder plot, but also the corporation that Mikhail was investigating in the beginning of the book. They continue to tie together and get into this super dark, complicated storyline as you kind of see Mikhail and Lisbeth put all of the clues together. It's a ton of fun if you're into mystery and that kind of thing. I'm not a huge mystery reader, and I still loved it. A couple of things about this book that I didn't like very much. It's really, really long. Like, it's like 650 pages, which was fine for me. But if you're not into long books, it's super long. And he does tend to get lost in details of like Swedish culture and economics and politics on tangents sometimes. They're not totally unrelated. They're just more detail than I think most readers will care about, and particularly for a foreign reader, if you don't know the companies and the people and the events that he's talking about, it can get a little boring. So if you do choose to read it, just kind of skim through those, honestly. Most of them you don't need the amount of detail that he gives you, so you can skim through it and you'll be perfectly fine. That was just kind of a downer for me. The other thing is that there are a lot of dark elements, not only to this book, but also the rest of the series. There's a lot of like murder and sexual assault and rape and abuse and things like that, a lot of violence. And he's not gratuitous about it, but he is very straightforward. He doesn't shy away from talking about it. So if that will bother you at all, don't read it. It's definitely there. There's also a good bit of cursing, not a ton, and some of it is in Swedish, even in the translation, but it's there. So again, if that's the kind of thing that bothers you, just be aware that it is there. And other than that, it's a really fantastic read. Super exciting. He has a well-developed world. It actually made me very curious about Sweden, about the Swedish language. Gives you kind of a taste of that culture, and that's really one of the reasons why I really think everyone should try to read foreign authors in translation. Most of the time we don't have time to learn the language, of course, but it gives you a great taste for another culture, for another world, and authors from other countries, they write with just a different tone and sometimes a different rhythm than American authors or other English-speaking authors would. So it'll get you out of your comfort zone. It's a fantastic read. I really suggest it. So if you haven't had a chance, go out, pick up The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and give it a read through. But set aside a lot of time. It's one of those books that feels like it needs to be read in like 1 or 2 sittings. You can't just do a chapter a day because there's so many details and it's so fast-paced, especially towards the end, that really you just have to sit down and read straight through it. So anyway, I totally suggest it. And if you have read it, or if you do read it after this, I would love to know what you think in the comments. And I look forward to reviewing the next book in the trilogy, and eventually also I will review the Swedish version. I watched the movie The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with English subtitles. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully at some point in the near future I'll get to watch the American version as well and be able to review those for you guys as well. Alright, see you later. Bye.